Okay, and we should be live. Good evening, everyone. Let's
Hi
see if
everyone.
there are already people
I
connected. If you are connected, please comment, especially if you are on LinkedIn, because we don't know how many people follow us from LinkedIn because StreamYard does not work in that way. It only tells us how many people are on YouTube. So whether you are on LinkedIn or YouTube, just say hi so that we know that we are talking with someone. So today we are going to see, I think, a really interesting a session on a really interesting topic. Semantic links has been a thing for a few months, probably. I don't know. You will tell us later. I've heard a lot about this feature. I'm interested myself. I was telling you and Victor earlier that I would like to probably add a little bit of semantic links to my own sessions because it seems that there are some really interesting stuff that you can automate and do and monitor and test using semantic links when it comes to your Power BI environment and semantic models and so on. So I really look forward to this session myself. Um, and yeah, I hope that everyone will like it. So today we will talk about semantic links. Yo David is with us. He's a BI analyst, Power BI expert, works at Sparkle in Belgium. He's from Belgium. So later I will leave you some more time to introduce himself, but me and him met in Estonia at Tallinn Tech. And yeah, I'm really happy that these kind of connections, are producing even more speaking opportunities and uh, connections in the Power BI world. So it's nice that we met there, and now Yo is here to talk with us. So Yo, if you want to introduce yourself while we wait for people to arrive.
Yeah, sure. There's some things that I will say in the session about myself, as everybody does, but still. Um, so I work with Power BI. I've been doing that now for 7, 8 years, so I've been there for a long time. And to answer your question, Alessandro, Power BI, Kurt Bühler mentioned it to me about 2 years ago on Data Mines Connect in Belgium, and that's when I started to look into it, and then I found what you can do, and eventually I was able to get an overview of the environment we were in, and this session idea was born. Next to that, to surprise of absolutely nobody, I'm a nerd. Given the session topic, that will be a given. Um, Something I actually forgot to include in my session, so I'm glad I have some time, is I do uh, miniature painting, as you can see, perhaps. So that's my
Nice. Yeah, we can see
Lord of the
some.
Rings. So those are my Lord of the Rings miniatures, like that tall. It's an amazing hobby to do, to really
Yeah.
get the world out of your head. It's amazingly intense, by the way. Um, and yeah, I get strange ideas. That's why
Yeah,
you
yeah, I can see.
see
I
semantic
can see.
link with Lord of the Rings. Like,
I even
uh,
have a tattoo on my back about the Lord of the Rings. It
what
is
did
in
you?
Elvish. My tattoo.
Ah,
I'm a
okay.
fan.
Ah,
I'm
yeah, it's too
also a
nice.
fan. Yeah,
In
yeah.
in that case, I don't know what the normal procedure is for you guys to to give the slides of the presentation to the people that follow the session, but I do have them in Elvish written as well. Uh,
I don't think maybe only Victor can read them, or is
no, it's
tattoo
English, but it's
artist.
just
I don't.
like arty. It's unreadable, but it's fun. I
Nice.
also have the ones just in English that you can actually do something with them, but yeah, a
Yeah.
bit of fun. Never hurt anyone. Uh,
Nice. Nice. Cool. Then, okay, let me go over the slides. I think people are joining the session, so I will just go over the usual slides that we present every time, and then we can start. So if you are following us for the first time, we are an Italian community dedicated to business intelligence and data with a strong focus on Microsoft technologies, so Power BI, SQL Server, Fabric, Azure, analysis services, and so on. We organize virtual meetings like this one every 2 weeks, so you can follow us for those meetings, both in Italian and in English, like today. So yeah, follow us if you are interested in these technologies. You can find us pretty much everywhere. So if you search for Power BI as a Group Italy, you can find us on LinkedIn, Telegram, YouTube, Meetup, Fabric communities, WhatsApp channels, and I don't know. I think we're not on X and Instagram for now, but who knows in the future. And Victor is giving you the link tree to all our social channels, both in LinkedIn and in YouTube. So you can just click and join whichever channel you would like to join. We have a GoFundMe that is also in the link tree. So if you feel generous and, well, if you like what we do, you like our events, everything we do is free. We will always try to keep our physical events as well free. So if you want to donate something, go ahead. We have a call for speakers. So if you want to talk with Power BI or Group Italy, like Yo is doing today, just apply on Session Eyes and we will host you. I don't know when, because as you can see from the screenshot, we've got a lot of submissions, and I hope that people that submitted are patient, because 37 sections, but we just do 2 every month, so it's going to take a while to do them all. But
That is a good problem to have. Too many sessions.
yeah, it is a good problem to have. And lastly, our community is open to everyone. So if you want to help us with something, if there is something that you want to do on the web related to business intelligence and you want to showcase it to our community, or you want to help us with organizing activities, anything, just you can talk to us. You can find us everywhere in the social. There's my personal number, so you can just go ahead and write to me and say that you want to participate in these events. So thanks, everyone. That was it for the boring introduction slides. I will now share Yo's presentation and leave him the mic to him. So go ahead.
The
Okay.
font is amazing. Beautiful.
I actually found the font of the movies, so I used that, and in searching that, I found the Sindarin looking thing as well. So anyway, welcome to the session on how to get an overview of Power BI using Semantic Link, and we're going to do that in the lands of Middle Earth from Lord of the Rings. What's the session target? Well, not really intended for people who are really good at Python, because I'm not, who expect deep dive best practices like tips and tricks like, oh, I could have studied 10 years with, no, that's not, because I don't know Python enough to do that. This session is actually for if you start with Semantic Link like me, who have never written Python and basically have no idea where to start. So what I hope is by the end of the session that you have some idea where to start with Semantic Link and how to get it up and running for a few basic things. I'll showcase some more advanced things that I figured out since then, but the basic steps should be clear and you should be able to get it up and running. So what is the story of the session is you have the lands of Middle Earth with a lot of kingdoms, as you can see, I colored them. And someone very good, someone at Microsoft was able to convince all of them to use Power BI, which I'm happy about because I work with Power BI. But then how do you get an overview of this? I noticed that my next slide shifted a bit up. So I work at Sparkle, and we are a data consultancy firm in Belgium. We were also working in Estonia, hence why Alessandro met me there. If you want to have information about that, please contact me as well. My company is going to be very happy. I've been working there for 7 years now, so it's a great company with a lot of experience, which is amazing. So how do we get an overview? But first of all, what do we need to get an overview about? Because, well, your team is not the other team. You have teams that are organized like hobbits. Organized, I mean, they know each other. They're small teams. Like one of the customers that I'm working at now, they're quite small. They don't need formal agreements. Like if you do this, then you need to ask for approval from X or Y. They just do things. But because they're so small and they don't generally change a lot, they do things the way they do because that's the way they did it. So as you notice, that's just tradition. So somebody sometimes can get an idea, then you get some strange things happening, but basically it remains the same. And as you can see, that's the organizational style. So they meet up, they agree on some things, and then they have a good conversation because, well, that's a small team. That's all you need. Probably this is way too large for the team that we're talking about. But and how does that look? Workspaces for hobbits. Well, in this case, we have one workspace, and you have a model and a report, and that's it. Because, well, what else do you need? Everybody uses it the same way. Um, and if somebody tries something, you could perhaps have two reports on one semantic model. And in a team like a Hobbit team, that is a very strange thing. And perhaps you don't want that, or you want to get an overview of this. But this is one way of working, one way of organizing your Power BI that you need to get an overview over. Why am I telling you this? Because at the end, we're going to actually look at the organization that they did and see, can we see their organizational style in our tenant? Another example of organizing your Power BI is like Mordor. I'm not casting moral things on those styles, because in this case that would be bad, but more just pure organizational. Like there's one person that actually makes every decision, and everybody else just has to listen because, well, that's the one person that does it. Is that a problem? Well, no. If you're in a small company where, for instance, you're the only one working with Power BI, then it's logical that you make the decisions. That's a more the organizational style. If you're working in a multinational with 10,000 people, that is a problem. So depending on where you work, how you are organized, this could be a problem, could not be a problem, but basically one person keeps everything strictly organized. As you can see here, it's one thing. This person has power over how it's working, and everybody follows that same thing. The bad measurement management is, of course, to showcase that later on, to see if we can actually find that. Another one of the organizational styles that we could be talking about is the Misty Mountain Goblins. This is an organization that starts with Power BI, has actually no idea where to start, just gives everybody access to everything and go nuts. Meaning everybody does whatever they want. They just try something out. They feel something. Oh, I heard about X or Y, and they're gonna start that. There's no agreements on anything. As you can see, how do you organize? Not at all. They have no idea how to organize their Power BI, which results in stuff like this. Like you can see the naming. Um, what? Like the last one is I hate dwarves and Torrents specifically. At least that is descriptive. Armor dirat, the first one. I have no idea what that means. Perhaps that is something, but the DQF, that's clearly somebody just smashing the keyboard. As I know because I'm the one. But still, this kind of organization. How do you get an overview of this, and where do you start? This looks, for instance, like this. Two semantic models from the same lake house going to stuff. A semantic model being orphaned somewhere. Um, it's an organizational style. I'm not particularly a fan of it, but it's an organizational style. And how do we start with this if we enter as a consultant, for instance, or if our organization is like this? Where do we start? And now, Isengard. Um, Isengard is the one that definitely knows we're going to use Power BI, and we also know kind of how we're going to do that, and we have an agreement on the naming. We did that 3 times before, but still we have some organization. As you, for instance, we have no organization actually because we're still combining the newly bought or the different teams that were working in Power BI, and we actually have no idea yet. And their workspaces, as I said, the naming, like it changed a few times, so there's no consistency, but they try. And in regards to content, well, wait a second, we're still organizing. How do you find empty workspaces, for instance? That's also one of the things. And then lastly, the last of the kingdoms that I'll be taking into account for the session, and then we actually will go into our semantic link, is a group that's organized like Gondor, hierarchically, very strongly organized. Meaning, if you if you look at the organizational style, if somebody gets an idea and they want to have that idea implemented in the Power BI, they can't implement it themselves. They have to ask up the chain and up the chain until there somebody says, okay, this is actually a good idea. We're going to implement it. So this is very, very slow. But they do have a lot of agreements. They know how things should be named. They know how many workspaces there are and stuff like that. As you can see here, it's clear what it is. You have the capital of Minas Tirith, you have a research, and you have several garrisons. Done. If something changes in there, if somebody doesn't follow the rules, you want to find that as well. For a different reason that with the goblins or with the hobbits or Mordor, but still you want to find that. So all of them actually need some way to see how things are going. Here, another example, for instance, is somebody once created a report and said this is how it should be, and they just changed the filter in the report, and now every year, in case of the Condor, the same reports get just copied. Um, Nobody knows why, but since nobody makes the decision, it doesn't change, so they just keep piling on. This is perhaps something you want to find as well, like an excessive amount of reports. So we have seen a few teams of Middle Earth, kingdoms of Middle Earth, of course, and the way that they were organized. And as you noticed, it's not one way; it's a lot of different things. So how, in heaven's name, are we going to create? Oh, sorry. How in Iluvatar's name are we going to get um, an agreement or some overview here? Well, they asked the sixth Istari, and that is a joke that only the deep Lord of the Rings nerds are going to get. But basically, they get a wizard, ask him like, "Can you get an overview?" And yeah, sure. Being an Istari, being a wizard, he says, "Fine, but how do you actually start getting an overview in Fabric, Python, notebooks, Semantic Link, tenant? No, no tenant. Okay, so this is how do we start? Well, first, Middle Earth and us. So the yellow wizard is going to tell the story of how he got an overview of Power BI in Middle Earth, and I'm just here to help. Um, I try to give commentary, and that's it. So who am I? Well, as you may have noticed, because my slide shifted up, it should the one about Sparkle should be right after this one. So everybody assume it was, and you're surprised that I worked first of all with C Sharp as REST SQL, and then I started working with Sparkle with with not Python with Power BI, and from there on I went a lot of different routes, all of them with Python with Power BI. I keep saying Python. I'm very sorry. That's because I want to get ahead. And I've done, yeah, if it's Power BI, somehow I've done it, like training, development, coaching, governance, security at some point. Uh, Power BI was Power BI, and well, so that's why I'm the one helping the Yellow Wizard explain what he's doing and why he's doing it and what is useful. So what is Semantic Link? Semantic Link is a Python SDK that exposes the semantic model as Python objects, meaning you can actually start working with them. And you can read and modify model metadata, which is not a part I'm really going into a lot, but you can do it. And it's in Fabric notebooks. It's in Fabric only, by the way. There is a way to use your visual code, I think, to link to Fabric and then run it from there. But that's something I heard about. I never tried it myself. But still, even then, it's only run in Python, in Fabric. So keep that in mind if you want to start trying it out. What is Semantic Link next to something from Python is the link between semantic model datasets and data science. You can now get a lot of things from there and start using them, like the metadata, like the measures, like tables, columns, stuff like that. Um, and the Fabric data frame is used. That's something if you want to look it up. I didn't know that. And as I said in the beginning, this is what this is. Did I mention it? Yes. This is actually the session that I would like to have had when I started Semantic Link. I had no experience with Python, no experience with data frames, no experience with notebooks, and I had no idea where to start. So data frames. If you ever come into the idea like I need to know what this term will help you. So using semantic link, you can, in my view, go two routes. One of them is managing semantic models, managing measures, looking into the visuals, which is tech heavy stuff. A lot of it is at the moment only usable if you're using preview features like the PBIP and PBIR, saving of the Power BI file instead of PBIX. PBIR is going to become the default, and from then on, it's no longer a preview feature. So I'm actually looking forward to it because usually I'm in the business side of things, and you can't use tech-heavy stuff, especially not if it's in preview. If you want more information about this, then you can follow Datamark, like Mark Leijleveld. He's amazing with this. Before you ask, I have permission to use his image like this. Just saying. Um, and if you go the other route, and that is then governance, there you have a few levels depending on the access you have to data. You have the tenant, the capacity, and the business level. Tenant level is you have tenant capacity, admin rights, capacity is you have the admin rights there. And business level to me is you have no rights whatsoever except on the things that you are working on. So your workspaces, and that's it. If you're interested in some examples or information about the tenant level, then Bits2BI, and he is amazing as well. Both of them are great to talk to, and you can find his information as well. We're mostly going to look at the business level here. So we're going to pretend like I don't have tenant levels, tenant level admin rights, because in my demo environment, of course, I do have that. What do we know? What do we need to actually start doing our notebooks is we need Fabric, of course, it's only usable there. We need a Fabric. We need to log in, and we need to create a notebook. And that's about it. We can start. This part is if you get that error message, just use, and I need to update my slides because MS Spark Utils is going to be deprecated, so it's Notebook Utils. But use the stop and then wait a minute or something, and you can run another notebook. That's just that you have too many notebooks running on your capacity. On an F2, I think you can only run one or two at a time, so you'll get that quickly. I didn't know that because the first time I was using it, there was an on a P1, so F64. I had a lot of options. I think I burned a lot of money as well. So keep that one in mind. So what are the notebooks in Fabric? And here we come to the point, like this is what I wanted to know to start with. There are web-based code-first things that you can run different languages in. They have native integration with lakehouses, for instance, so you can easily write and read from lakehouses. And for instance, here is an example of how you can use that. I have the first parameter, second parameter, I set them. The third parameter is just some calculation with the other two. The fourth parameter is again a calculation. And then if I display all of them, I see 4 and 3 because I set them, and then 2 calculated values. The reason that I show you this is just like you can run each block separately, and then you don't have to run it again and again if you're testing. So you can just, like, for instance, keep the first and second parameter filled in and start working from there and don't have to run that the entire time, which is quite useful to know. Then, what are data frames? I said earlier, you should know that because that's an easy thing to know. And actually, it's easy to know because, well, it's Excel. It looks a bit strange, but it's just Excel, columns, rows, done. And in Excel, you can put more things in. That there it stops. So that was an easy one. So now we have an idea. So what are we installing? Semantic Link, Senpai, Semantic Link Labs. If you look online, it's not clear always which is what do you need, where do you find it, what does it entail. So if we start looking into it, follow your nose. Again, for the Lord of the Rings nerds, this is a good joke. So Semantic Link is basically the meta packaging that depends on the individual parts. So if you use that, you have everything from all the packages within Semantic Link. And Senpai that's the packages. So you can use them separately or just Semantic Link, and then you have all of them. And if you look at Semantic Link Labs, that is actually an extension on Semantic Link. Where is the main difference? Um, the first two are Microsoft managed. The last one is community managed, meaning yeah, it can run a bit behind sometimes, or it's not fully fledged yet or something like that, but it's amazing extension to use. So now that you know what a notebook is, what Python is, what Semantic Link is, and what you need to install, we're going to, well, install. Because how do you now start with a notebook? First of all, you open the notebook, then you install or import what you need to use, for instance, Semantic Link. Then you get the data if needed. For instance, if you previously saved all your workspaces in a lakehouse, you can gather that. Then you iterate over a list to do whatever it is. For instance, for each workspace, you get all items in it using Semantic Link function. You do the cleanup so that you can save it and you write it away. That's basically how I look at it. So install import. Semantic Link is by default installed in Fabric, so you can just import it to start like this, done. Semantic Link Labs is a bit more difficult. It needs to be installed, so you can either create a pip install in every notebook that you run. That works. It takes a bit of time, it's not consistent how long. It can be 20 seconds, it can be 2 minutes, but it takes your notebook longer to actually start running. Or you can create an environment where you put it in. And in that way, if you use this as the default environment on your workspace, then it's always already installed and you just need to import it like Semantic Link. And then you get your data if you need it. For instance, here, the Semantic Link function workspaces. So I get all workspaces in the where that I can see. So I do not get personal workspaces because I'm a business user. That's something that Dan said. If you're tenant level admin, you can actually see personal workspaces as well. And for another example is from a lakehouse. That's basically a SQL query on the lakehouse. I get all the workspaces. In this case, both give me the same result. One of them is faster than the other because I pre-run the Semantic Link function. Then we're going to iterate. For those who do not know that, it's just looping over something. So here you can see to local iterator, and we just print the name of the workspace. And then we're going to get all the names of the workspaces that we have access to. And then use a Semantic Link function. As you can see, it's the workspaces iterator again that we saw earlier. And then the fabric.list items where the workspace ID is the ID that we find in the iteration. So basically, we're already looping over the workspaces that we got earlier, and then we're doing a function. So this would give us each time all the items in each workspace that we're looping over. And then by splitting the code, we can try to run over our loop without having to get the data every time from the lakehouse. We can just fetch it once and then keep reusing it until we're happy. Of course, every time you run the notebook again, it's going to fetch it again, but that's what you want. It's just something that makes debugging or developing a lot easier. And then the cleanup. This cleanup, I would say, do it every time, because when you use a Semantic Link function, you get columns back that you can save, but not all columns are ready to be saved based on their name. So if you just change the name of the columns with this function, you can save it. I figured it out once, and now I just use it every time by default. And since I did that, I never had any problems. So please learn from what I had to endure the entire time. I didn't know this with random fails, and just use the function. And then when we're actually going to write, what does that mean? Is we're going to create a data frame from, in this case, again, the workspaces, and we're going to save it into our lakehouse. And this is the result that you get. In the screenshot, you don't see workspaces, but you see the capacities, the columns, the items. So basically, it works for all. There's one warning I should give you. You can set it to override or to append. And there is a big difference. if you're testing, override can be quite interesting to just see what you get. If you then forget to change override to append, you start wondering why you have so little items or so little, such a little amount of workspaces. Um, Definitely something that did not happen to me way too often. So also to avoid it. Um, and then this slide is actually just, if you get the slides from the organizers later on, with these functions, you basically set for a simple governance setup. Uh, there's a lot of functions in Semantic Link, and if you have to go through them all to find these, it takes you a long time. So just here they are, easy to use. So um, and this is the logical order that I explained them in, but in Python, because Python runs from top to bottom, if you want to do the cleanup and you want to call the function cleanup columns, you have to first do that one before you actually start looping and calling it. So this is the logical order. If we look into the code, it's not going to be in this exact order, but the different pieces are there. So if we now start looking at a small demo, for instance, here, this pip install, I'm not going to do it with a hashtag, means it's commented out, but this takes quite some time to run. Is it readable for everybody, by the way? Should I enlarge?
I think, can you hear me fine? Yeah, I
Yes.
think I
think
can
it's
see it,
fine.
and I have a very small screen, so yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
So
going to
as
increase the layout so maybe people can see it even better. But yeah, people can see.
yeah, so okay, thank you for the feedback. So here we're going to import the senpai.fabric as fabric. Here we're going to get the workspaces for workspaces and then list capacities. I'm leaving this mistake in because I changed my function but not my name. And I want to warn every one of you, do better. Because as you notice, I just saw workspaces, and even though I know I left a mistake in, I still think it's workspaces and the function is something else. So make sure that your naming is correct for what you're doing. I specifically left this mistake in for that reason, because yeah, watch out for that one. And then, for instance, here we're going to loop over. So for W in workspaces, this is just whatever you can name it, iterate, and then we're going to display it. And as you can see here, we are starting to see this ID has a display name, Middle Earth trial capacity, and another capacity. So basically, we have whatever and everything. And then here, we should change that to notebook utils, and we can stop. So that was a very quick very quick demo. And if you look at it again, then you can see here um, with a bit more information, like we create some parameters, we get the lake house properties. I'm not going to go too deep into them. This is just good. If you get the absolute path, then you know the lake house that you're going into. And you give it the lake house name, in this case, lake house demo. So everything we save will be in that lake house. And then here we get a query that we run into Spark SQL to actually get the workspaces. And as you can see, this time I actually named it correctly. We make a definition, so a function that we can call for the cleanup of the columns. And here we are going to clean up the items table because we're going to get all the items. We want this to be empty so we don't have double rows. And then here we're going to iterate over the workspaces. And here you can see we prepare the columns. So we call that function from earlier. We create a data frame. We add the workspace ID. This isn't technically necessary for all functions that you call with semantic link, but in a lot of them, the workspace is included, the ID, but in some of them, it isn't. And it's quite annoying if you think, oh, I found the measure that has the problem, and you have no idea where it is in the 1,000 workspaces that you're looking at. So adding it another time and then later, or being more better at it and checking up front, but I just add it every time just to make sure that I have the workspace ID. And then here you can see we actually append it into the workspace into the lakehouse, um, where we call the absolute path with the table name that we're working on. I parameterized it to make it easy to copy paste it for another function. And here you can see that for the display name Gondor, this is a report semantic model into that workspace. Here you can see it's double. We could have removed this one. I didn't. And we loop over. We only have one example here, but it's going to loop over all of them and show us everything. And then we stop. So now that you know how to call the functions, save it into a lakehouse. Now you have a lot of data, but yeah, you can't do anything with it because it's just tables with data in it. We need to model it. Power BI, star schema, all the things. So we're going to create a star schema, but because it's different business ideas, a measure is not a relationship. We're going to create a few stars into a constellation. This is just a general idea. Everything comes from Semantic Link, of course, as the tree. And if we look at the modeling again here, this time I should make it smaller. As you can see here, all tables is a bit much, but basically we have the columns with a few dimensions around it, items with a few dimensions, relationships with a few dimensions, and the users with a few dimensions. Those were the main things that we were looking at that I've been looking at for this demo. So as you can see, it's nothing really fancy. It's not a lot of tables. It's just there to do its job. So to see what users, relationships, items, and columns there are and what we can learn from them. A few things that I did do was, for instance, in relationships, create an extra dimension for the cross-filter behavior, like one direction bidirectional, or the multiplicity one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many, just so we can use them as so that we can
Sorry,
use them as dimensions. Yes.
can I ask you to zoom in a little bit on the data model with the, just so that we can see a little bit better the tables. Nice. And so I wanted to ask, just so that I understand correctly, basically you are telling me, okay, this is the piece of the model that that you built to analyze the relationships, and basically
Yes.
what the capacities relations tells me is what relationships I have in each capacity. Like I can slice,
No.
which
In
would
each
basically mean.
item. So in every semantic model, I went in and pulled the relationship status.
Yeah, sure,
So
sure. But
for
the
and
fact that you
yeah,
have the
sorry.
capacity means that you can aggregate and filter by capacity. So for every
Yes.
item of a specific capacity, you see what are the relationships in those items. That's the point.
Yes. Every
Nice.
capacity,
Okay.
every workspace, every item,
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
every
Okay.
column,
Good.
every table. I left out tables like basically. No, normally you have the from table, from column to column, but I left that out. Yeah, because I can do more, of course. But to get for the demo purposes, it would be too much to
Yeah,
actually include
sure.
that, especially because my table names are quite nonsense in this demo. So showing them would have been more confusing than not showing them, but you get a lot more information from them. Um, that is perhaps a good point. So if we check the modeling, the Gen2 data flow that I created, we can see, I'm going to enlarge it in a second. So for instance, let's take the workspaces. That's the easiest one. And now you're gonna see that it's gonna take the longest time ever to load this because I didn't prepare it. Yeah. So as you can see, I have the ID of the workspace, if it's read-only, if it's on a dedicated capacity, if it's a workspace or not, a name, and then a few things that I joined onto it, like even the image and stuff like that.
You don't have the information about the owner, right, of the workspace.
Well, the owner is not via here because you don't have
Okay.
the owner like that, but you do have the users. And the user has admin role, for instance. And in this case, for this
Okay.
workspace, this user has an admin role. So I can kind of infer that if there is an owner for this workspace, yeah, your David is going to be part of that. Like
Okay.
you can also work with, for instance, agreements that you always create a certain AD group for the admin for the owner of the workspace, so that you always know that workspace, the owner is in that AD group, so you can just check from there. Um, so knowing who the owner is, not directly, but indirectly, you can infer.
Got it.
That,
Since
did
we're
that answer
asking
your question?
questions, there is one from the audience. Emma
Okay.
is asking, have you used Semantic Link Labs with UDFs?
With UDFs, no, not yet. Sorry.
Okay, that was the only question from the audience so far.
Okay.
Thank you,
So
Joe.
no problem. Um, Let me check here. So basically, now that I've shown a few things like the functions that you can use and stuff like that, the Yellow Wizard created a small report to get a basic overview. As I said before, you can go a lot deeper. You can do a lot more with it, but still, this is a basic setup, and we're going to have some actionable things that we find out with just a few of the functions that I showcased earlier. For instance, if we look at the workspaces, we can already see that there's 9 empty workspaces. That might be a problem. It might not be, but it could be. So let's check them out. For instance, here, Isengard has a workspace that's empty with only one user and no AD groups. If this is there for a long time, probably if they've forgotten, check with them. Find the owner, so good question earlier, and figure out what they want to do. On the other hand, Misty Mountain Goblins have the workspace I Hate Dwarfs and Turin specifically with 2 users. So I would think like, perhaps they're actually going to work on this. This is something you have to follow up. At some point, you're going to learn which workspaces are there to stay and never going to be filled, but you can't do anything about it, and others that you know are going to be filled, but are waiting for something. On the other hand, we have 22 workspaces that are have something. So can we learn something from being filled? Well, actually, here with the Misty Mountain Goblins, we at the start of the session I explained how they work. As you can see, they tried out several things. Is it readable? Can I? Um,
Yeah, yeah. But
okay.
if
Really
you can
fine.
zoom in a little bit more, it will be even better. Yeah, just like that.
Perfect.
Gonna have to leave it like this, otherwise my jokes and my beautiful icons are gonna disappear. Um, so, for instance, we know that they try out stuff everywhere and whatever when they feel like it. If you look at this, they only have 3 workspaces. We know how they think. This looks roughly like what we would expect. On the other hand, Gondor, one semantic model with 80 reports. We know why that is, and we know now, like, okay, for them that is normal. Let's leave it at that. In my organization, if I would see this, I would start asking questions. Um, but not everything that looks strange or wrong is wrong. So in this case, we can start to feel the way they organize in just the way they put things into their workspaces. For instance, Isengard has nothing, which is what we expected. Mordor has only 2 and 1 model, 1 report, and here's the dashboard. Also what we expected. And the Hobbits have 10 models, 11 reports. The 11th is from Bilbo, who tried something out as I screenshotted earlier. So even here, just looking at what is in there, we already know we should perhaps ask Gondor, can we help? Misty Mountain Goblins, not yet, but Gondor here, I would say perhaps we should ask them if we can help. If we look at, for instance, the columns, because we have some information for that as well, we can see that there are some workspaces that have a lot of columns. Like the big one here has like 6,696 columns, I would say that is quite excessive. So I think something is wrong there. It could still be okay if they have a lot of things in there, but that is still a lot. And as you can see here, average columns is 3,300. I'm reading the numbers because I'm not sure you can read it on your screens. 3,300 columns on average in a model is too much. So something is wrong there. We don't know if it's one model that has a lot of things or every model has a problem, but something is wrong there. So we can ask, we can see if we can contact the Misty Mountain Goblins for Big One to see if they need help there. Same with the Hobbits; they have 978 report columns. So perhaps we should ask them there as well if they need help. Based on the amount of columns alone, I think none of them are actually using Power BI correctly. But and then column total size, we can see Big One has a lot of data size, which is in memory size of the columns. And this can have multiple sources. For instance, at one of my previous customers, we were able to take off, I'm not sure, 50 to 60 gig of memory size from the models just by removing the ID column of the fact table. It was there, it did nothing because you can count rows. There were unique rows, it was just there. Removing the column changed nothing to the workings of the report, and it saved us a lot of data size, a memory size, which it needs to work with. Same here, average column size, Mouth of Siren, perhaps we need to contact them. It's not that much more than everything else. So be careful there who you contact. Not everybody is as as willing to accept help, but still we have some actions that we can do. And now the
You
relationships. Yes,
Sorry, talking about column size, Emma is asking another question. Will the column size will be available if the model was in direct lake?
um, good question. I I'm gonna be I'm gonna
I
leave that
honestly
answer
don't
for
know. I'm
now, and I'm
thinking
gonna
about it,
answer.
but
Yeah, like all of my
thinking
models
about it,
are
but
linked to a lake house, so
Mm.
they're direct link to a lake house, and they still have their size, but in a warehouse, I don't know.
it
There's
depends
only
on
one,
what import mode you use, because maybe you're connected to the lakehouse, but you're using import anyway. So,
perhaps. Yeah,
uh, but it's a good
that
question. Yes.
that I don't remember because a lot of the things I scripted. Um, yeah. So yeah, good question, and I'm definitely gonna look into it. Um, and another one of the things that we want to look into is relationships, because if you know modeling in Power BI, bad relationships can really impact the performance of your model. So let's check. As you can see, most of the model relationships we have are good. We only have a few that are and 16 that are bad. Like, let's check. What would we expect? We would expect actually Gondor to not have bad relationships. And as you can see, that is the case. The Hobbits, since they copy paste their models, apparently the first one didn't make a mistake. So that's that. Isengard, yeah, well, if you don't have anything, you can't do anything wrong. So well done, Isengard, for not having bad relationships. Again, not talking about the lore, only the the relationships in the models. And then the Misty Mountain Goblins here, you can start seeing like this becomes a problem. They have more bad relationships than good relationships. What do I define as a bad relationship? Many to many bidirectional. Like there are cases where you can use it if you know what you're doing and you know the effect and you know exactly where this is going to end. I assume you don't. So I say it's a bad relationship. If you do, and I tell you like, hey, or some of your or you're contacting someone and they actually know what they're doing, you can leave it, of course. But this is for me an easy check. Like, okay, here I need to start checking something. And then for Mordor, they have just one directional, one to many relationships, which is okay. So here as well, we now found out the Misty Mountain Goblins. we should start checking with them. We don't know which models yet. We don't know which workspaces yet because I didn't include it in the report here. But since the data is available, I could just add it here and show it. Um, and then the users. And now we're getting back to the answer of the owners. And I forgot to upload my latest version. Anyway, here you can see that admin group has 8 users and 8 user groups. Basically, yeah, it's a bad visual. That's why I updated it and apparently forgot to upload. Basically, here you can see how many personal accounts are used. That's mainly why I used it with my customers, because best practice is to use AD groups. And I'm going to switch away because I don't like the view of the visual. You don't want to use personal accounts on workspaces, because if somebody changes roles and they shouldn't have access anymore, it's hard to figure out in which workspaces you should remove them and which ones you shouldn't. If they're an AD group, just remove them from the AD group, put them in the right one. If they still have the same access, nothing changes, and otherwise it does. So that is one reason. The other one is if you only use personal accounts and the person who owns the workspace leaves, there's no owner anymore. Of course, you can work your way around it by asking the tenant admin, but that's not always easy to do or quick. And yeah, why bother if you can just easily fix it? So that's also something that you can do. So with just those 4, we have a lot of insight in the governance setup of Middle Earth and how they can improve. Not to the basic, not to the detail level. You have to change this measure over there, because the measures I haven't included even yet. You can even check how many measures there are in how many tables there are, because it's best practice to keep your measures in a measures table and not just spread them around everywhere. So many tables with measures in a model. Also, perhaps contact them, explain them why it's better to use it the other way around. So a lot of things, and a lot of insights, and the only thing we actually did is use a few basic functions with Semantic Link. Not even Semantic Link Labs yet. No fancy thing. We didn't have to save anything in a preview feature. We just used simple features. So I don't know how I'm doing with time. Um, how much time do I have left?
We still have 5 minutes. So if you want, you can show something else, or we can
Yes.
talk about what you showed.
If there are questions, just fire. I'll answer them.
Not, I don't see them now, so you can go ahead.
Okay. So one of the things that I used to create this entire setup, because as you can see, I actually created all the workspaces and all the reports, and every model that you saw in my demo report is actually created. So for instance, here, this is code. I'm not going to do deep into detail, where I'm going to use one report, clone it from one workspace to another workspace with a new name and a new filter, where I'm actually going here into the BIM, so the text file of the model, change the filter, save it in another, and save it here, and then clone the report linked to that new semantic model. And as you can see here, the Hobbit Simple report has been successfully cloned as the Brie report within this workspace. So you can do, for instance, just that. Why would that be useful? I've heard companies where they want the same report for each department, but they want it in their own workspace. Yeah, here you can just say, okay, we delete it from there, we put it again, and then it's there. We link it to the same model, and you can have your version. Easy. I'm going to quickly go to the next one, just so we have some more examples. Then here, this is the example with Semantic Link Lab, so I have to install it. And then I'm going to use the workspace and semantic model and create a model best practice analyzer. And as you can see here, best practice analyzer gives me a nice overview of all the things that I should take into account, like formatting, maintenance, and performance. Avoid excessive bidirectional or many-to-many filters. I know that I'm working on the big one from the Misty Mountain Goblins, so I expected that return. There might be other things in there, like consider a star schema instead of a snowflake. Even that is in there. Mordor has much less rewards in many-to-many, but for instance, mark it as a date table. So even with the best practice analyzer, you can just run. So if you find a model that has problems, you can just run the best practice analyzer from your notebook, see the result, done. If you want, you can save it. I didn't here. Here is an example, for instance, to see the dependencies. So you give it a workspace, a table for a data set, and then it just gives you how things are related to each other within that table. Um, not going into detail, sorry, a bit lack of time. And then the last one I wanted to say, wanted to show is actually one that I has saved me a lot of time, is rebind reports, because I've been developing at a customer and they had a report online and with their customers, and then they changed up the entire data model warehouse. So I had to make a new semantic model. The old one was still there. Once that was ready, I had to link the report to the new model. If you have to do that manually, you have to download it or open it on your desktop and then change. With this, you just say, look there, done. That runs in seconds and it's nothing more than this. So those are a few extra examples that from things that you can do beyond the basic governance stuff that I showcased earlier. And I have 3 minutes left. So last words of importance, you're not alone. What do I mean by that is people like Mark, like Dan, like me, who've worked with this before, most of them are actually not just willing, but eager to share what they know, especially because I mentioned all speakers. So, well, that's what they do. Um, find them, ask, look at their GitHubs, look at their LinkedIn, look at their blog post, whatever they made, videos, sessions like this, and try to get more information and make it easier for yourself. Because I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. And then you have to allow yourself to be carried. You don't have to figure it out again. You don't have to go through all the functions to see which one can I use, which one I don't have to use. Just use whatever has been used before you. So find those that have gone the road before you and get their information. Find whatever you can. In that regard, you have my sword, my bow, and my axe, and my GitHub. The link to that is over there. Um, Believe it or not, the picture is actually from another conference. It was a different kind of conference. But in my repo on GitHub, I try to get all the notebooks that I shared here. So you can just import them and you have your basic structure. You have to link it to a lakehouse, run it, and then model it. And you have something up and running quite easily. Then thank you for your attention. So I hope that Semantic Link can help you in the future with everything, that you can actually find what you need to use and it will help you. Um, if you're if you want to give feedback, I'm happy to get feedback because I'm actually still quite young in my career as a speaker. So any feedback you have, good or bad, if it's helpful in any way, I'm really grateful for it. So um, scan now if you did. And I have actually no time left, but I have to show one more page, and that is the big reveal. The white wizard has been Clippy all along. So
Nice, nice,
that
nice.
was the session for me. If there are any questions, I'm still happy to answer them if I can.
Yeah, just one last question for Emma again. How often do you update the metrics? Or in other words, how do you recommend making people accountable for the different issues highlighted?
Um, at the last customer, we were with a few people that managed most of the things, most of the workspaces, so I could just ask them. and then the few technical people that we were working with were easily approachable because, well, we were the ones coaching them. So if they made a mistake, we just now saw it and we could help them out. So that's one direction, just contact them. Another one at another customer was also contact them, because people usually are quite happy if you're friendly with offering advice and offering help, instead of just coming there with I don't know, a whip to whip them into place. And also create a knowledge database so that people don't make the same mistakes constantly again, so that they can go back. Because yeah, for instance me, but I think some others from you as from the audience as well, we work with Power BI so much that we forget the basics, that they can be difficult. They're so ingrained in who we are and what we do, that you sometimes just forget to mention that you shouldn't use a snowflake, or that you should use a measures table. Like, I do that so automatically that it's sometimes easy to forget to mention that. And if I don't mention that to people I coach, they can't learn. And sometimes they forget afterwards. So make sure they have some place to go. Even if it's just linking to blogs and videos from like Guy in a Cube or something where they explain whatever, but that they can find a place where they have information to grow and be approachable. That's also helpful. And how often do you update the metrics? Actually, that's also another more technical answer to it, because um, functions like list capacities, list workspace, list items, those are quite soft on your capacity. You can run them every day. You're not going to notice it. List measures, list columns, especially if you're using extended, where you get the size of the column and more information, those can be quite heavy. If you run them every day, you're going to see that in your capacity metrics app. Um, and I know, because I actually saw it just grow a lot. So even if you're in a large organization, like really large, and you have the money, even consider buying a capacity just to run this on, to make sure that you can run constantly all the metrics that you want. If you're in a small organization, run them once a week, once a month, whenever you think like, okay, we need to check again to make sure. So also that consultant, it depends.
Nice. So we have, I don't think we have any other questions. There are a few comments from Marjolaine. I hope I pronounce it the correct
No, it's
way.
actually Mariolène.
Okay, then it was completely the wrong way then. I mean, she said it was very nice, and oh, you saw each other at an event, if I understand correctly.
Yes.
So yeah, am I saying thanks for the explanation?
Thank you.
So very nice. I can give you my feedback live. I think I can confirm it's a really interesting feature for capacity monitoring, for testing. There's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that kind of overlaps. If you've seen my session on using Tabular Editor and Power BI Inspector in Tallinn, there's a few features that kind of overlap and some that are missing from mine and are present in yours. So those are probably technologies that could be used together. I mean,
There's also, if you know FUAM, that's also that's community managed, that you can use to get an overview of to manage your capacity, your Power BI environment. You can use that as well, but for instance, you need an app ID to install that, which is when I'm working as a business user actually, or within business, I don't have access to that. So, but even that also has a lot of information, yeah, that you can use with Semantic Link. So there's an overlap in
nice.
all of those.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Victor, do you have any comments?
I really like the story about the Lord of the Rings. I was laughing so hard. Oh my god.
Thank you.
Yeah, the question is, what is your favorite movie of all of three?
Oh, oh,
Difficult
It's been
question.
it's a difficult question because I've put up watching them again because I just finished reading The Lord of the Rings with my son as a bedtime story. So now I'm into the books, and we
Right.
still have to watch the movies together. But I insisted that he listen to the books first.
They are
So
a little bit long, a little bit hard to read.
well,
Just a little bit.
it took us about 10 to 11 months to read.
Nice.
Reading 5 hours a day.
No, actually, like 20 to 40 minutes.
Okay. A little bit long.
Well, so it's hard to answer. Yeah, I think the Return of the King, of course, with the Ride of the Rohirrim,
Oh, yeah.
like the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, right to death.
Goosebumps. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
well, just that scene alone.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right. So we are, I think, thank you, Joe and Power BI team. Thank you for following us.
Thank you.
I think we're out of time. It was a really, really nice presentation. I hope that more people will watch it later. It's going to stay on YouTube and LinkedIn. So if you joined later, you can find it in our YouTube channel whenever you want. Yeah, so I hope we'll see each other in some other events, be it
Gladly.
in wherever in Europe, because we never know where you meet people in this community. Because if you decide to go to the same conference, right?
Yes.
So nice. So okay, goodbye everyone. See you next time. We have a lot of events planned, one every 2 weeks. So stay tuned with our events, and see you later. Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.